2.
Hello, my name is Elize Hattin and it is Thursday at 1. Welcome to the Smart Hub's Hub Live. As you know, we do these Hub Lives for 2 reasons. Number 1, to help you as our business community adopt technology, and secondly, to learn a little bit about modern best business practice so that you can become more profitable, save time, and just enjoy being in business a little bit more. And today, as we do every week, we have some amazing, inspiring guests, but today we have someone who is phenomenal and is visiting us from Adelaide, Mr. Anthony Hart. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, it's so great for you to come to Rocky. You were saying before that it's a bit warmer in Rocky than it is.
It's 18 degrees in Adelaide. It's about 30 up here, so beautiful weather.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous weather. You should consider moving to Rocky just for the weather.
Potentially, yes, I like it.
Potentially. It's a great place to live, that's for sure. Thank you so much for coming. Obviously, you were here yesterday to present to us about mind health and the 4 steps to better mind health, which I know went exceptionally well. And now today you are joining me on not the tan couches we're usually on, but the black couch today to talk about business in general and leadership and all of our trusty system.
Fantastic.
So thank you for that. As you know, we've been working through our little system. We've been touching on marketing, sales, delivery, financial management and money systems team, and we're at the direction/leadership point in our system. So what I thought I would do, Anthony, if it's okay with you, is because you've been very experienced in business, and I'll ask you about that experience in a moment, for us just to kind of chat through the different elements on the system, and then also talk about how you did the transition from bricks and mortar business to technology business.
Sure.
Is that okay?
That'd be excellent.
Cool. So tell me, you're a serial entrepreneur, you're a business person?
I've always done my own businesses or been in family businesses, and recently, after 14 years of building pet retail businesses, I've come across my passion, which is an event that happened 16 years ago. Yeah. And I knew at the time it taught me lots about how to market product. Previously we were selling dog food and cat food, but it's the same thing when you're marketing mind health products, and that's the space I work in, how to get people mentally better. Yep. And the transition was quite seamless because you've just got to work out how to make it simple for the consumers to consume it. I
love that. Okay, so tell us about just your brief business history. So tell us about your very first business. How old were you and what kind of business were you in?
My very first business, I was 12. I was an avid golfer and I used to caddy for my dad playing golf.
Nice.
I used to watch everyone hit golf balls into the dams on all the par 3s. Yeah. After hours with my best mate, I'd take a wetsuit and I'd go and dive in the dam for 2 or 3 hours.
Nice.
We generally get between 600 and 1,000 balls. Wow. I'd bleach them, package them up, A, B and C balls, $2, $1.50, and I'd sell them back to the golfers.
Nice,
so
nice.
That was my first job, I was 12.
Yep, what happened after that?
That got me through to about 15. Yeah. So that was my cash flow as a kid. And then I got a job at 15 doing dishwasher operation at Pizza Hut. So I went from working for myself back to Pizza Hut. Yep.
How did you go being employed?
I didn't last that very long. I think I lasted about 5 months, and being told what to do and doing the same thing over and over and over again, which was filling up the dishwasher, pulling down the close valve, and pulling them straight out. It got a bit monotonous.
Okay, so what happened after when you were 15 years and 5 months old? What did you do next?
After that, I ended up back on myself again. I fast forward to 18. Yeah. I started up Anthony Hart wine promotions, and so I used to go and do wine tastings in bottle shops. So as you walked into the bottle shop, there'd be a demonstrator there who would literally welcome you to the offering, and you'd tell them you had a Shiraz, a Cabernet, Riesling, and Chardonnay. What would you like to try? And I would literally sample that wine out. I was driven by sales and performed 3 or 4 times better than what the average demonstrator did, And so I ended up doing that as a full-time business for 3 years.
Wow, I love it. Your name sounds like it should be a wine promoter. Yeah. Anthony Hart Wine Promotion. That has a ring to it. That's awesome. So what did you do after?
So after that, I went to university for 3 years, did a Bachelor of Business and majored in marketing.
Yep.
I then transitioned into the wine industry.
Yes.
And I got a job for a large corporate, Wolf Blass.
Nice.
And did that for 3 years. Then I went overseas and travelled.
Oh, good. Yep.
So I did backpacking through Malaysia, Thailand, China, and then over to the UK.
Nice. And what did you do when you were in the UK?
I just met my fiancée, Zoe, from the UK, and we went back to Bognor Regis in the south of England. I met up with a car importer who was buying brand new cars from foreign dealers, placing the orders with the factories in Germany,
yep.
and then importing those cars back to the UK. There was about a 30 to 35% price gap, and that was
nice.
That was the job of my life. That was that 3.5 years where everything went well, and we went from doing 3 or 4 cars a week up to about 10 cars a week. Wow. From Europe into the UK.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so then fast forward, that lasted another 3 years. You seem like you have a 3-year a 3-year barrier limit.
I then transitioned back to Adelaide, and
nice.
I had a story there, which I found it very confronting to get back into life.
Yeah.
This is where my now current business evolved from, and so after leaving the UK, coming back to Australia, I suffered from depression and anxiety to settle back into my local town, which transitioned me to getting very unwell, and ended up making an attempt on my life, which was very confronting, which we heard yesterday. It also pulled me back out of that. We started up a franchise group called Pet Stock, and so pet retail was our business in South Australia. So we opened one store every year for 9 years.
Wow.
And that's probably where I get to today.
Yeah.
Which is probably something we might want to talk about with my tracker.
Absolutely. So I'm going to pause the story there, and then we'll come back to your startup, which is essentially the business that you're operating now. Sure. You're obviously exceptionally experienced and have had a range of different businesses and entrepreneurial ventures, which is really inspiring. So I'd love to know your top tips for these things like marketing, sales, delivery. So if you could give us 1, 2, or 3 top tips for each, and then we'll go back to how you transitioned into being a startup. So how you went from bricks and mortar business to a technology company today. Sure. Okay, so marketing. You have a marketing degree.
I have a marketing degree.
Nice.
And it's funny, you go through university and you get a piece of paper. I don't think it transitioned straight into work, but it got my mind more focused on delivering very basic messages. Marketing, keep it simple, Simon, the KISS approach, which it sounds obvious, but it's so important. I'll give you an example in the pet industry when we were selling pig's ears, rather than having writing on the billboard that was on the facades of the road, we'd replace it with a big, dirty picture of a pig's ear and then put, 2 for 10.
Nice.
And just keep it simple. So the message really, don't overthink it and keep it simple.
Okay, so what I'm seeing from what you're saying is 2 things. Keep it simple and make great offers and make them big and visual so that people can't miss them.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Would that summarize marketing?
Perfect.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about marketing?
Look, I think the brand has to be exciting and it needs to be fun.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I'm really proud of with my current startup is that it's fun and it's bright colours.
Yes.
And I call it eyebrows up, which means it's got to invoke. There are a lot of negative things in this world, so if we're going to market ourselves, we're going to market positive, happy messages.
Nice. I love that. Eyebrows up. I love that. Eyebrows up. Yeah, I think that's what we do at the Smart Hub most of the time. Lots of fun. That's awesome. So talk to us about sales. So really when you were doing Anthony Hart wine promotions, that was all about sales, and the cars were all about sales, and really the pet stock's all about sales. It's all about sales and business.
What I'm currently doing is all about sales as well.
True. I think you're a salesman.
I've always worked out how to try and sell stuff, and I think that's
The golf balls with sales?
That's very important. I mean, you can nail the finance and the processes and the admin, but if you can't sell it, there's no revenue.
That's right.
Work out how to sell the product. If I'm ever trying to sell something, I always get my network to actually look at what I produce. And so if I've got a sales brochure or an offer, you can be too close to it yourself. I always just pass it around and actually, without giving them an explanation,
have a look.
I give it to you and say, what do you think? And what's that telling you? Now, if you can't get it in half a second, the offer's too complicated. You know,
okay.
So I like simplicity, and I've always had a passion for setting targets. I think if you don't set targets, you kind of drift.
That's true. Yeah. So how do you set sales targets?
From the space that I've always worked from, number of inquiries, and it's not complicated, number of inquiries to number of quotes. I go through a traffic light system, you know, green, orange, red.
Yeah.
You know, and so they all start off green.
Yes.
And then, you know, try and keep them, categorise them into different levels or different potential leads. If you've got 100 people inquiring about your product, without having some type of system to differentiate those leads, you end up treating the same amount of time to each of those 100.
Yes, and then that's not ideal, is it?
Well, if you pull out the top 15 or 20 and nail those and spend more time on those prospects, there's going to be some A, B and C clients.
Nice. Okay, so would you say your top tip in sales is to look at all your prospects or leads and to categorize those and spend the majority of your time on the, say, 20%, top 20% that is more likely to convert into a sale? Okay.
And, look, it seems obvious, and it's amazing how many times you fall back into not doing that.
Oh, look, it being obvious has nothing to do with it, I think. No. We get so much in the weeds that you feel so overwhelmed by the work. It's so easy just to go, oh, I can't let any lead go, and they not service anyone exactly really well.
You're right.
Yeah. So, number one, focus on the leads that will make the difference, that'll convert.
Correct.
Right. Any other tips in sales?
I'm very passionate about getting back to people super quick.
Yes.
You know, if you're, I think especially in today's world, you know, if you get an inquiry for whatever you're selling, or if you're selling a product or a service, if the inquiries come in 3, 5 or 7 days ago,
you've lost it.
You've lost them. So, you know, I always believe in immediately getting back to them, even if you don't have the time to dig deep on them. At least acknowledge that the inquiries come in, and that you'll get back to them.
I think that's a super top tip. Yep, so have a system in place where, or have the mindset at least, if you don't have a system, have the mindset that you respond to people who want to buy from you immediately.
Immediately.
Nice.
And it doesn't mean you have to fully respond with a quote and the proposal, but it's amazing how powerful that is. And those people are less likely to let you down when you come back to them in 3 or 4 days.
That's right, because at least you acknowledge their inquiry straight away. Yeah, and I can remember a few times that I've done business with people who have responded immediately, because you get the impression that they're going to be superstars in delivery when they respond to your inquiry promptly. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Love it, love it, love it. Now let's talk about delivery of your value, your product or your service or your app or whatever you're doing. What's your top tip around delivering products and services?
Delivery.
Operations, really.
Operational side. I've got a commercial mentor. I mentioned to you yesterday.
Yes.
We have a pre, during, and post.
Oh yeah.
In every process, and so there's some pre-work that you've got to do beforehand, which is you can take it for whatever angle that you want to take it, but there's pre-work to prepare for delivery.
Yes.
There's the during, which is actually when you deliver the service, and then 9 out of 10 companies don't do any post.
True.
Meaning that you follow through with delivering the service or product. You then diaritise to make an honest contact 8 or 9 days later with something, and it can even just be a handwritten note to thank them for the business or to ask them about something particular that you found out during that journey. So it's a pre, during, post.
Okay, so here's what I see quite often, especially in technology businesses. The post is like a feedback survey. So tell us how we did. Do you think that that's a good post, or do you still think that giving value and the post, like the after, saying thank you or delivering some extra value, is that more effective?
Yeah, we haven't been massive on the post surveys. I like to ring up. I like the power of the voice.
Yes.
And so
yeah, so do I.
The voice is very powerful, and asking them for feedback, and asking them that you're looking to make your business better, and so nothing is bad feedback. So are there any parts of the delivery of our business that you found not to be quite right? We'd love to be able to take that on and improve it. And if you give that precursor, that excuse first, you'll get stacks of people give you feedback, which is really good.
I love that. I think that the combination of those two things are so powerful, where you ask for feedback, but from the consumer's perspective, I always feel like people are asking me to do another job instead of thanking me or giving me something in return. So if you ask for feedback, you have to end on a positive note where people receive value, whatever value that is, feeling appreciated, or giving a little gift, or just a thank you for, being a customer or whatever, so that that transaction essentially ends on the business giving something to the consumer and not getting the consumer to give them something, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so money, financial management. You look like the kind of guy who loves, or probably doesn't love, financial management as much.
Cash is king, cash flow, and I've gone from running a family business with my brother and my dad to a startup.
Yes, cash flow is very different. Yes.
When the cash runs out, you can't pay wages, you can't deliver service. So cash flow is so important. Working out your budgets and working out what you think you can spend is really important, and always pegging that to your turnover figure.
Yes, so real time, checking how you're going.
So if you get $30,000 or $40,000 worth of orders in, as a percentage, you can work back from that. And if you use that mentality, when you're starting up, you're investing continually on new processes and product and development. I think if you always base it on your turnover and what you can afford, so if it's 15% of turnover you'll put back into product development, that's what you do. It's very easy just to go and spend chunks of money and not look at where the cash flow is coming in.
Yeah, I like that. So pre-planning your cash flow by planning your budget.
Absolutely.
And then tracking that real time, and then making decisions ahead of time as to how you will spend your cash flow, your income, revenue. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so systems. Are you a systems man? Everything that you've described so far has some kind of system.
I'm not a system. I try and I like to work by systems.
Yes.
I've got a full-time business admin manager, and that was the first position we took on.
Yes.
And that's all about process.
Yep.
And things can't be reactive, and so processes for everything in the business are vital for it to scale. If you can't get it right at the start, if you then triple or fivefold the business, it just starts to fall apart.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. So you need to have those processes and design them. Do you design them as you go, or do you have a specific time of year where you look at your processes? How do you manage?
In this business, we've just finished our first financial year.
Yes.
So we've done 3 months of the second one. So we're very early on. So as far as processes go, we're rapidly expanding.
Yeah.
And they're changing almost overnight.
Yeah.
So I think monthly we're looking at new systems and processes.
That's really great. That is really great. Okay, team. Do you have any recruitment tips or any management of team tips? Like, how do you build the ideal team?
There's 4 people involved in this business.
Yeah. And this is the startup that
This is the startup.
Yeah.
So there's myself, there's a full-time business administrator, we've got 2 trainers, got a contract app developer and a marketing person.
Nice.
And I've always gone, if I look at the 3 people that we've taken on, either permanent or as a contractor, they are very, very experienced in the space that they've come from, and we've actually paid above odds for their delivery.
Okay, yeah.
I just believe that if you're starting up, when I say above market rate, you get what you pay for, and I think if you try and cut corners when you're starting the business off. If we chose a cheap app developer, it was maybe offshore. If we used a marketing graduate from uni to develop marketing concepts, sure, we would have saved $40 or $50 an hour in their fee, but the effectiveness of how the product sells is double.
Yeah. So your top tip is get the most experienced people you can and be prepared to pay for that experience, because when you do, obviously every business you've been in has been successful, and I'm sure that you've applied that principle. So I think you're only as strong as your team, right? So get the best people, pay them well, treat them right, have fun, eyebrows up.
Yes, eyebrows up. Look, I think you can, if your cash flow is not sustaining those extra charges that you're taking on, you can always taper back.
Yeah.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable and actually going back to that contractor and saying, look, we've done a great journey at the start. Cash flow is really tight. You'd be surprised how many people will help if you ask.
Yeah.
The space I'm in, asking for help is the number one thing.
Yeah.
But you can always maintain a great bit of marketing material and promotional brand with someone cheaper once the groundwork's been done.
Yes.
And I think if you do it the reverse way and you get someone cheap at the start,
it's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah. Okay, so especially at the beginning of a business or a project, get the most experienced people that you can.
Absolutely.
Got it. Love it. Okay, so now we're really at direction and leadership, which is what we're chatting about in the system. So talk to us about direction and leadership.
So direction and leadership, and we had a discussion yesterday.
Yes.
And that is the stuff, our business, which I think is at quite a pivotal stage. We've got it into a digital platform.
Yes.
And now, you asked me, what's your business model? Right?
So maybe before we talk about that, maybe we just need to talk about the transition between a bricks and mortar business and startup. So tell us, how did you come to being in the business of having an app?
Okay.
And what is that business about?
Shall I give you just a
give us a bit of a rundown. Yeah, and how you came to be in that business.
So the business that I've now started, which is a social good for-profit business, is an early intervention tool for people to use when they're first confronted by stress, anxiety or depression. Yeah.
And we know that stress, anxiety and depression is quite rife in the leadership and business community and in the community in general, right?
Exactly.
Sadly.
Sadly, it's probably the worst business to try and start up in the startup.
You're
stress, it's going to test it.
Oh, absolutely.
It has.
Yeah.
But I suffered from anxiety and depression 16 years ago. I had a very confronting experience with it.
Yeah.
There were 4 simple steps that I built up and put into a tracker system that helped me get my life back on track. And so that's effectively the foundation of what this business is.
Can I tell a little bit of a story that you told me yesterday? Sure. So you said something that was really profound, I thought, and that is that you had your own experience where you were suffering from anxiety and depression, went to the doctor with a very specific goal, which is to get medication, but not to be open and honest, not to say too much, just leave with a script, which you successfully did, but then that didn't actually really alleviate or help with where you were at. That led to a confronting life event.
Yes.
And then you spent 9 months in a hospital recovering from that. Okay. But then this is what I found really profound, that all your friends would come over and say 2 things. Number one, I had no idea that you were suffering from anxiety or depression. And secondly, about a quarter of your mates that you knew well and that knew you well then confided in you and said, do you know what? I'm going through the same thing. And then what you did is you wrote down 4 steps for them to follow so that they could look after their own mind health. And that essentially transitioned into being what is the app today.
I need to employ you as my PR consultant. You've nailed it. And so that is the basis for what the business is, and that's the why, where it's come from.
Yeah. And essentially that journey has been going on since early 2000s, right?
2003, and maybe 150, 200 people would find themselves having a coffee with me, sharing that exact
You've got
experience.
lots of mates.
I've got lots of mates. Right? And so and after this conversation. There'll be people who are listening who will be going through something similar, or their friends will.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I'll get a phone call, which is fine. And it's that very first confronting conversation that silently people don't have.
Yeah.
Which has led me to build a product that is, how do you build a product where no one wants to talk about what they want to talk about?
Yeah, that's really confronting. That's difficult.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
So when I started, it was called Life Back Tracker, 4 Steps to Better Mental Health.
Yeah.
Mental health. It was a mental health tool.
Right.
Everyone ran away from it.
Yeah.
And so now it is 4 steps to better mind health.
I love that. And really, regardless of whether you're struggling with anxiety or depression or stress, I think everyone has problems, and I think everybody could benefit from better mind health.
Absolutely.
And from tracking how you go in your own life, in your mood, and in how you look after those 4 key areas that you identified and shared with your mates to help them and yourself keep on track and improve how you think and feel every single day.
It does, and it puts you in a better spot to confront that stuff as it comes towards you. And
Yeah.
I even say deliberately in slang to say that you don't need to be suffering from anything mind health related to get benefit from it.
Yes.
Right? So what I'm trying to do when I share that is that if there's 1,000 people listening, there'll still be a percentage who won't download the app and use it, right?
Yeah.
But by me then saying you don't have to be suffering from anything mental health related to get benefit. You could go through winter and put on 5 or 6 kilos. You could be drinking too much. You just want to have 3 months off. In fact, when we do the workshop around the alcohol bit, my psychiatrist, who I saw 105 times in the first 5 years, so it's quite regular.
Yeah.
And I had a problem with drinking during my recovery, because I'd go out with my mates.
Yeah.
And there's that peer pressure to drink. And
Yeah.
he was very, very shrewd in saying to me right at the start, Anthony, let's work out an excuse as to why you're not drinking.
Nice.
And come up with it.
Yeah.
So when you go out with your mates, you're forward and you say, I'm not drinking for 3 months, I want to try and burn some of these love handles off. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
have
A logical reason. Yeah.
Have a logical reason.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to rewind quickly. So rewind back to where your mates were coming to visit you, right, in recovery. And you mentioned that you wrote down these 4 steps just on a piece of paper or on the back of a napkin, and you would hand over the 4 steps. And I think the 4 steps are quite genius, but they're quite simple. Anyone can implement them.
Yes.
But they are the 4 things that really make a difference to mind health in the end.
yes.
So you wrote that. And then the next step, from back of a napkin or on a piece of paper, went to printing diaries, where you printed 5,000 of these diaries and gave them away, essentially.
That was my early stage philanthropy. I wasn't
Yeah.
a millionaire in any stage, but I spent 18 months in rehab, and I got the nurses to staple up little books for me.
Oh, I love it. You employed the nurses to do.
Rehab. And so I'd give it to you, and I'd say, here's the page for sleep. Here's the page for exercise, here's the page for alcohol, and here's the page for talk. And I get you to track it every day.
So you've just outlined the 4 steps, really.
Talking.
Exercise.
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 Reduce alcohol. Sleep.
Sleep.
So,
4 things.
So talking is confide in a friend. Like all those friends were with me, confide in one mate confidentially.
Yeah.
Tell them exactly how bad you're feeling.
Yeah.
Which is terribly frightening.
Yeah. But be honest.
Be brutally honest.
Yeah.
Step number 2 is to then go straight to your GP.
Yes.
And be frank as to how you're thinking, feeling and behaving.
Yeah. So not what you did, which is go into your GP with a preconceived idea of the outcome.
I went into the GP with 5 or 6 points. I read them off. I had them on a pad.
Did you really? And you took out the pad?
And in the waiting room, I'd practice the 5 or 6 things. Some of them were very distressing. Some of them were just mild. And so if I gave the information across to the GP and she got really worried...
You go with the mild one.
Right, and she'd be talking about psychiatrists, psychologists, which is the way we should go through this.
Yeah.
I would retrace that statement and say, look, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm just having the odd night where I can't sleep. And
right.
So I was very strategic in getting an outcome. I got it within 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Which was an antidepressant.
But ultimately, that outcome didn't lead you down a path of recovery.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
No.
So back to those 4 steps.
Yes.
Those 4 steps, if you implement them, talk to a mate and then talk to your GP honestly, sleep enough, no drinking or reduced alcohol, and exercise.
Yes.
Those 4 things were the things that you identified that will make the greatest difference to someone.
They were 4 simple things, and I used to say it to mates when they came in. None of these things I did prior to what happened to me.
Yeah.
I was doing the reverse. I was drinking.
Yeah.
To smother it.
Yes.
And
as many people do.
And
yeah.
get that mask up.
Yeah.
Exercise. I was doing none of it.
Yeah.
You'd be tired. You'd be yawning all day.
Right.
But you can't get to sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep-wise, I couldn't get to sleep.
Yeah. So your mind was racing. You were feeling anxious.
Mine was racing, and as far as talking was concerned, nobody knew. My mum knew. My fiance knew that things weren't going great, but never ever had any idea that I was that sick.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so then transition from the stapled books.
Yeah.
I love that you employed the nurses to help you make your diaries.
Yeah.
So a transition from the diaries into an app, because you realized the importance of the work that you were doing and what an impact it was having on the people that you were sharing these diaries with.
Well, it wasn't. It was up, and I would get phone call after phone call of people ringing up really excited to say, you're a genius. I'm actually starting to feel better.
Nice.
Actually, it's not that genius.
Yeah.
If you cut out alcohol, exercise, be honest and do all those things, you actually start to better confront stuff.
Right.
But I then got asked to go and present to the state government SA Health.
Yes.
And they heard of this book going around, and so I presented it to them. And they then asked me to go and present to the Digital Startup of the Year Office of Premier and Cabinet Award.
Right.
And we were
that sounds very grand.
It does. And all
yes.
these, people in suits were there to watch you get up on stage. Terribly frightening.
Yeah.
To do 3 minutes.
Right.
And the microphone turned off.
Really, after 3 minutes? Did you time it perfectly?
I started right at the end. I started right with the impactful statement.
Right.
And I think there was about 75% of the audience were men.
Right.
Males are much more prone to this than females, and
yeah.
it got 82% of the vote. So it won the Digital Startup of the Year.
Yay.
For South Australia 2016. And then I thought, there might be something in this.
Yeah.
And that's where I then I had to transfer that from a book into a digital platform. You can't use books to do this if you're going to really make an impact everywhere.
Yeah, books aren't scalable enough. They are hard to, they are scalable, but
yes.
not like an app. You can't download a book really quickly and, note things. Yeah. So what I like about the 4 steps and what your app really offers and what your book offered in the early stages was the ability to track how you are feeling and also how those 4 steps are going day by day.
Yes.
And then you showed me before on the app, there's an actual graph that then you can see, oh my goodness, this is a bit of a snapshot or a picture of my own behavior and my own mood over the last day, 7 days, month, and et cetera, and then you can start seeing some of the patterns, and you can start seeing where your sleep goes down when your alcohol goes up and the exercise drops away or whatever. So you can start seeing how these things interact, which is really cool, which you can't just do by just going through life day by day.
No, and I recall the story of, in those early years, going to the GP or going to the psychiatrist, presenting to him how I was feeling today, but knowing that a week and a half ago things went great.
Yeah.
But I'd forget what happened a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
So that's how I started to track it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it wasn't in the nice book format that is produced today, but the psychiatrist used to get my little scribbles.
Right.
And he used to go, what happened last week? And I'd turn the page over.
Right.
And I'd give him the sheet.
Right.
And he'd look at it and go, okay, you had 4 nights there where you only had 5 hours sleep.
Yeah, no good, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a self-reflection document, and there was no bias in it. We were always telling lies to the people who are trying to help us.
Yeah.
As we talked about, when we go and see a doctor, we only sugarcoat it and make it sound half as bad.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to get better with stuff, you've got to be honest.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of our Hub Live, so I want to quickly move forward into direction and leadership and startup. Give us some of your top tips for those.
I think the number one thing, it's incredibly scary when you first take that jump.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, have a go. And I'm part of a group called Entrepreneurs Organisation, EO.
Yes.
And you've got to fail often. You have to fail all the time.
Yeah.
Flirning, they call it flirning.
Yes.
So, failed learning. And so don't be afraid to try things, because it's only when you try things that the market it'll naturally point you into the direction where you need to go.
Nice.
You shared some stuff with me yesterday about some of the data.
Yes.
Right, now, that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
And by being open and honest with people, don't go to everybody for advice. I think that's probably the second thing is choose wisely who you go to for advice and guidance, because if you can't start asking opinions from everybody at different levels of business, you'll end up going around in circles.
That's right. We call that mental whiplash.
Whiplash?
Yes. Getting too many opinions from too many people and they're all conflicting. And
yes.
so you end up not knowing what to do.
So I quite liked it with you because you've had a lot of experience in this space.
I have, yes.
And you don't look at you're out of it, you're not emotionally attached to the product.
True.
So there were three things that were brilliant that you said to me yesterday.
Oh, I'm pleased. That's good. That's good. But I think you touched on something, the data. So I want to share with our Facebook Live audience what the app is so that they can download the app. But let's talk about the data. The data is completely anonymous, right? We're not pulling a Facebook where we're secretly tracking who you are and taking photos of you. None of that at all. What you put on the app remains private to you, and it's de-identified. The data is de-identified completely. Yes. And even in the app, you don't have to ever register your name or anything personal at all.
You don't. My passion with that is that this app has to be free for anyone.
Yep, so it's a free app.
Yep. Anytime. So if you're stressed or anxious, the last thing you want to do is to connect a credit card to it.
Yes.
Or reveal your mobile or your email address.
Yeah.
It is discriminated against.
Yes.
It just is, unfortunately.
Yes.
Not that it should, but that is completely your data.
Yeah.
It's built with good technology, so if you go out of range with your satellite, it'll sync back up when you're back in range.
Nice.
So
you can still track how you're going, even if you have no internet.
Absolutely.
And when you're back where there's Wi-Fi, then it will just update.
It syncs up.
Nice.
We've used a couple of Google back office products to do that. And,
good. Yeah.
And they never ever fall down, but it's the confidentiality, because generally if you're feeling anxious, depressed or stressed, you're paranoid about anyone finding out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is why, as I said to you, 50% of people who lose their life to this illness, to suicide, had never medically gone and got any help for it. Which is,
it's really terrible.
I think it's crazy. I also think it's a huge opportunity, I call it a sales opportunity.
Yeah.
If we can get those people to actually get to the medical help and the power of three people, the chances of them getting seriously ill or losing their life to this drops off the cliff. It drops right down.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So that's essentially your intention with this app, is to help people have better mind health by tracking the 4 things that really matter: talking, exercise, sleep, and alcohol, and making points on a graph so that you can look back and see your own patterns. You can track towards a goal, towards where you want to be. It's completely free. It's completely confidential. And what you did as a business person was essentially go from doing that in a book form to doing that in an app form. And I know that there are business people in Rockhampton who can do that now, who have little systems that are paper systems still, that if they were to digitize those systems, they would be able to make an impact and create some success for themselves.
You can scale this globally, and it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
And I think
how genius.
And don't be my knowledge of technology is zero, right?
Right.
But I've just used the same principles where you get what you pay for. So the app developers we've used aren't the cheapest. They are quite expensive.
Yeah.
But I can actually.
But they're good.
Well, they're good. They're 13 k's away.
Yes. You can visit them.
I can visit them.
You can look them in the eye.
And I can touch and feel them, and I can see what we're doing.
Right.
And they've also heard my story, and they know, you've got to know about your business. So,
yes.
But the advantage of getting it right and having it in an incubator where you can test it locally, have a local person involved in building it, and getting it right, then we can scale that globally. There's 6 or 7 languages which it will eventually go into, which will get half of the world's population. Yeah. And the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and I love that. So essentially you transitioned something that was very simple on paper to a very simple app, but because it's in an app, it can be used anywhere in the world, because whether you live in Australia or the UK or China, we're all human beings. We all respond to those same 4 things: talking, exercise, sleeping, and not taking too much alcohol. I mean, if we're all tracking our own mind health and we're all trying to improve that mind health, that makes for a better world.
That's what I'm trying to deliver.
Love it. Love, love, love it. Mr. Anthony Hart, you were such a delight to speak with. Thank you so much for delivering to Rockhampton yesterday and for joining me on the couch today. Now, just before we go, we haven't mentioned the app. What is the app called?
Life Back Tracker. So 2 words. Life Back is 1 word.
Life Back. Get your life back.
Life Back Tracker.
Tracker. And you just go to the App Store?
You go to both of the app stores and they're free as a download. It is the 2nd version that's in the market, so there are 13 functions that are waiting to be stacked onto the app, but at this stage we're looking just to get the data collected properly. Yeah. Eventually, exercise and sleep will be automatic if you wear a health kit ready device. So you just put in your alcohol, be honest with it, and then you've got to honestly answer those 8 short questions.
Nice. Love it, love it.
So Life Back Tracker.
Right, we'll put the link in the comments, or we'll put the name in the comments. So just before we say goodbye, you know that tomorrow on Friday we have Tap Edit Go workshop here with, I was on the couch with Wes Allen last week live. I'm getting everything confused. Life Edit Go, no. Life Back Tracker, Tap Edit Go. So download the Life Back Tracker app and then come to our workshop tomorrow at the Smart Hub, our Tap Edit Go workshop, where you will learn how to make amazing videos so that you can produce content when you're a business owner. Or if you're just a mum and you want, or not just a mum, if you're a mum like me, we're not just mums in any way. If you're a mum like me and you want to make beautiful videos of your kids, or you might be interested in wildlife or anything, if you're interested in video making using nothing but your smartphone, iPhone or Android, then please register for our workshop tomorrow. You can still do that until 5 p.m. this afternoon. Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony Hart. You were delightful to have on the couch. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And we look forward to seeing you back in Rockhampton very soon.
Great, thank you.
And thank you very much. I'll see you next Thursday. See ya.
Thanks.